Hello, I'm back for my video about type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, all forms of diabetes, and the carnivore diet. Many of you have been asking me for this video, and I hope I can be thorough enough to answer all your questions. You can always leave a comment to get answers to more questions. You can come up. Come on. Come on. Come on. My dog Jasper wants to come up. Come on. Jump up. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Okay. So anyway, I have to put my glasses on so that I can read all my notes. I have a lot of notes because I don't want to leave anything out. Here's Jasper. He got off of his leash this morning and thought we had a chasing game for over an hour. You're gonna stay on my lap. You can stay on my lap, but don't get in the way, okay? Yeah, that wasn't fun. Anyway, back to the video. Here's my crazy glasses. Okay. There are several different kinds of diabetes. And actually, since they call dementia and Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes, this would relate to anyone who's trying to heal from Alzheimer's too. So that's kind of interesting. But there's type 1 diabetes, there's type 2 diabetes, there's gestational diabetes when you get very high blood sugars when you're pregnant. There's also MODY or MODY, M-O-D-Y. It's called maturity onset diabetes of the young, which I don't really understand that much about, and they might as well just be type 1 diabetes. And LADA, which is L-A-D-A, latent autoimmune diabetes in adults. And it's also basically type 1, or some people call it type 1.5. But mostly we're going to be talking about type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Now, I am a type 1 diabetic. I've been type 1 for 53 years. I was diagnosed when I was 16 years old. So I have more personal experience with type 1 diabetes, but I've also for many years researched both forms of diabetes, and have since becoming carnivore, I have read and listened to many testimonials about people who have both kinds of diabetes and have been helped by the carnivore diet. So first off, all diabetes, all kinds, is called a civilization disease, or a disease of civilization. So what does this mean? Civilization includes the cultivation of grains, which didn't happen until 10 to 12,000 years ago. We didn't have large amounts of grains until then. Yes, someone might have found a pond with some wild rice in it, but it wasn't actually cultivated until the dawn of agriculture, which was 10,000 years ago. So that's one thing. I'm going to say it. The next thing is the invention of vegetables. There are very few vegetables that you can just go pick in nature. They were mostly all created by hybridization of a few wild foods. Things like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, all came from a little bitty weed about this tall. I can't remember what they call it, but it all came from the same source, and through genetic modification, well, not genetic, just hybridization, crossbreeding is basically, they invented all these great vegetables that we have today in the grocery store. None of the vegetables that you go to the grocery store are naturally growing. If you find even sweet potatoes, which there were tubers, and they weren't very sweet, and they were pretty tough and fibrous, they were hybridized to create these luscious potatoes and sweet potatoes that we have today, but they did not exist before agriculture. And agriculture was the creation and invention of vegetables to sustain civilizations so that we could have more and more people, and if we couldn't find meat to hunt, we wouldn't starve. That's so. What else in civilization might have caused diabetes? Less physical movement and less carrying of heavy things. And even electricity imbalancing natural circadian rhythms. Just the invention of electricity just a few hundred years ago has created a problem with our circadian rhythms. You can improve this naturally now, but it's something that you have to work towards. Early man always saw the sunrise and the sunset. They slept in between sunset and sunrise, and they were active when it was light. I found out all about this earlier this week, or last week. For 4.5 days, I did not have electricity because we had a rainstorm with lots of wind in Maine, and my electricity was cut off for 4.5 days, and it really upset my life. I couldn't charge my phone. I had to sleep with my coat on. It was very difficult. I am not used to living without electricity. I admit it. Now, another interesting thing about civilization is before electricity and before civilization, we used fire. We used fire for light, and we used fire for heat, and we used fire for cooking food. And what is fire? What color is fire? What is it? It is a red light. Now people are using fancy red light therapies to create this vision of fire for healing. I really believe that fire is red light therapy. So think about it. Okay, let's continue. Let's see. Is that really the next page? Yes. Okay. I'm first going to talk about type 2 diabetes because it is the much more prevalent diabetes. And when someone in a remark about just diabetes, when they don't say 1 or 2 or any other kind, when they just call it diabetes, they're basically talking about type 2 diabetes, and it's a disease of metabolism. We don't really need to go into it, but the difference, the type 2 diabetes is that you usually make enough insulin, but you are unable to use the insulin because your cells have become insensitive to insulin. So many people think that type 2 diabetes is caused from being overweight and inactive, where it actually might be the cause of your overweight. If your blood sugars start to rise, it's going to make you overweight. And if you are overweight and not feeling well because your blood sugars are high, then you may not exercise. So it becomes a vicious circle of you're eating carbs, your blood sugar is high, you don't feel good, so you're not moving. And that's basically what happens in type 2 diabetes. But let's talk about how you can use the carnivore diet to treat type 2 diabetes. First of all, I am not a doctor, so I can't really tell you how to do this. I can only give you suggestions and coach you a little bit. So first off, let your doctor know that you are changing your diet and that you're going to be experimenting with low carb. I wouldn't right off tell them that you're doing the carnivore diet because it's just going to scare them. But just tell them you're experimenting with low carb, and they'll probably be all right with that. And they might advise you about reducing your medication right away. And in fact, you need to become familiar with being able to reduce your medication. And I'm not familiar with the drugs that are prescribed for type 2 diabetes, so I would just hope that you could understand how to be able to reduce it, because as soon as you start the carnivore diet, you will be reducing your medication. All you have to do is eat beef, butter, bacon, and eggs, or any of your favorite meats. Anytime you're hungry. You can eat as much as you want anytime you're hungry. You will become very satiated very quickly because meat with its fat will provide your body the nutrients it's been craving, and you will feel full and satisfied. Now, you've got to test your blood sugar. I have, which arm is it? I have a continuous glucose monitor. You might have one of those, but if you don't, you get your meter. I have one of those too because I have to check my constant glucose monitor, my CGM, so you might test your blood sugar on that. Test it after every meal. Test it when you first wake up in the morning and before you go to bed. And I advise you to keep a journal of your blood sugars, your daily blood sugars, and write down your daily food, what you've eaten, because you want to see how different foods are going to affect your blood sugars. You may start out eating lots of chicken and pork and fish and your favorite meats, but you may realize, or you may decide that your blood sugars are better on one of those meats. Probably it would be beef or lamb, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. It works really well for people because it's all delicious and you have experience eating it. That's all I'm going to say about type 2 diabetes, and then how can you use the carnivore diet if you are a type 1 diabetic. I'll remind you again, I am not a doctor, so I can only coach you. Make sure that you understand how to lower your medication. If your doctor is in control of lowering your medication, then you need to get your power back, and you need to learn how to lower your medication. It's very, very important. Talk to your doctor about this. Explain why. Explain to your doctor what you are doing. You might not want to say just tell them you're eating fewer carbs and that you know you're going to have to drop your medication some. you usually, if you're a type 1 diabetic, you have what's called a basal insulin. That's your background insulin. And your bolus insulin, that's your mealtime. So we're just going to say background and mealtime. So your background insulin will drop. It'll have to be reduced. It is an insulin that you take just to be alive, whether you eat or not. So if you want to fast one day, you take your background insulin, and you shouldn't go, your blood sugars should not go low during that day. If you are unable to fast all day long without your blood sugars going low, then you are on too much basal insulin. That is very, very important. There are times when you're on a carnivore diet that you're going to not feel like eating because you're so satisfied, and you might want to. I often skip meals. I don't fast a lot. I'm thinking about doing it in the future, but I haven't fasted a lot, but I do often skip meals. And if I try to skip a meal and my blood sugar goes low, then I know that my basal is up a little too high. And so the next day I will want to lower it by just a little bit. And I only lower the basal insulin by 0.5 units a day, just to keep it slow and controlled. Now your bolus insulin or your mealtime insulin will also decrease. If you've been eating a lot of carbs or a lot of bread or rice or potatoes or sweet potatoes, then by dropping those foods and only eating meat, yes, eating meat, you still need insulin. You still need your bolus insulin. But what you're gonna do usually is take your insulin after you've eaten. Many type 1 diabetics end up preferring just seeing what I've already said because I forgot to look. But so many type 1 diabetic carnivores use our insulin that you can get at Walmart for you can get it at any pharmacy, but at Walmart it's only $25 and it's over the counter. You don't need a prescription for it. And it works better with meat and eggs because meat and eggs by itself digest slowly, and our insulin is a slower insulin that lasts longer, just like meat does. When it digests, meat lasts longer. You're not as hungry as soon. So it's a very good insulin to experiment with. And you can just go to Walmart and you pay your $25 and you get your insulin and you can start experimenting. When I don't eat a lot at one time. I just don't have that kind of an appetite, and I usually use about 2 units of R per meal. Sometimes if I'm going to eat more, I might take 1.5 units right after my meal, and then I might take another unit like 2 to 2.5 hours after a meal. That's a good way to do it, but I've learned that through my own self-experimentation, and you've got to be willing to self-experiment. Whether you're a type 1 or type 2 diabetes, you have to be willing to take charge of your life and self-experiment. That's really, really important. You might, especially while you're transitioning to the carnivore diet, you might have a lot of low blood sugars. So you need to be ready for them. Never ever leave your house without having a way to raise your blood sugar if it goes low, because you don't want to pass out. A lot of people use different things to raise their blood sugars. Glucose tabs are made specifically for raising your blood sugar if you're a type 1 diabetic. And we all know about them. They usually taste horrible, but they do the job because glucose is very, very fast. A lot of type 1 diabetics like to use honey, but I feel like it is messy and it's very hard to measure. I do have honey packets. Let's see. I do carry them, but I don't usually use them. Let's see, do I have one in here? But if you're like a really serious carnivore, I have one that's all worn out. It's called Nature Nate's 100% pure, raw, and unfiltered honey. It's okay, but this whole packet, I wouldn't use it unless I'd had a lot of low blood sugars, and if you eat the whole packet, it's going to correct like a 30. It will get your blood sugar probably too high, and you can experiment with it if you really think that it's a carnivore food. I don't particularly think honey is a carnivore food. Yes, bees made it, but it's made from bee vomit. And it's not really the same thing as cow dairy that cows have created. So I don't know, that's up to you. A lot of type 1 diabetic carnivores use liquid glucose. This is new to me, but I've been hearing a lot about it, and you can buy it on Amazon, and it's supposed to work really well. I really can't tell you much about it because I don't know from my experience. Some type 1 diabetics use Smarties. They're a candy that is made mostly from glucose. I don't use it because it's got coloring and questionable ingredients. But a lot of type 1 diabetics really like it because it works. They work fast and it's easy to measure. I use, I'll do a little plug, St. Clair's organic herbal pastilles. I don't know how to say it, but it's pastilles. They're just little candies, and they're 0.75 grams of carbs for each candy. So if I basically treat it like it's 1 carb per candy. So I know personally that 1 carb will raise my blood sugar 5 points of milligram per deciliters. So if I am, say, 50 and I want to be 80 blood sugar, that is 30 points difference, right? So I would take 6 of these. 5 times 6 is 30, and it would raise me. The problem with these is they're made out of molasses, and they are a little slower than glucose. So if you're afraid that you're going to pass out and you don't like being low, please use glucose. It's better and it works faster. I like these because I trust them. They come in several different flavors. I used to use the peppermints because that's all they had. In the very beginning, I probably used them for 20 years. In the very beginning, they had peppermint and spearmint and maybe lemon. They only had like 4 flavors. Now they have like, I don't know, 12 flavors, lots of flavors, and I have settled on the coffee flavor because it is delicious. And it's the only sweet taste I ever have. So, all right, let's see. Oh, another thing you can do if you're a type 1 diabetic and you're going to try the carnivore diet, please join the Type 1 Diabetic Carnivore Facebook group. It's called Type 1 Diabetic Carnivores, and you have to answer a few questions before they'll let you join. And I am actually one of the moderators, so I might be one of the ones that approves you. Also, Dr. Richard Bernstein wrote Diabetes Solution, a big thick book, and it's all about low carb and diabetes. It has a lot of really good information about both types of diabetes, and it's a must read, even if you're going to do carnivore. He's not a carnivore doctor, but his diet is only 30 grams of carbs a day. It's a very good diet. It's protein heavy. And he only added vegetables because he figured you needed them. So he's not against the carnivore diet. And I think his diet really is 30 or less grams of carb a day. That's what I think. So anyway, his YouTube channel is called Diabetes University, and it has everything you'd ever need to know about treating your diabetes with a low-carb diet, and it's great. All right, let's see. Okay, things you might want to try to increase insulin sensitivity. This is a good one. Oh my goodness. These aren't things you have to do. These are things you want to do if you want to be able to take less insulin. And the only reason I'm encouraging you to take less insulin is that many health experts now, like Ben Bikman and Dr. Berry, Dr. Ken Berry, there's a lot more out there, but it's a prevailing wisdom today that you want to reduce your insulin. Even if you're not a diabetic, you want to reduce the need for insulin, because if you're using, your body's making a lot of insulin and you're using a lot of insulin, like you're eating heavy carbs, then your body is working too hard and it wears your body out, and it's really not good for you. That's a very simplistic explanation for using less insulin, but if you study, you go on YouTube and you study Ben Bikman or insulin and disease, you'd get your answers. And you know, it's really important to do your own studies too. Okay. So the first thing is exclude all dairy. Dairy is very likely to be reactive in the diet, in the bodies of diabetics. So it does that to me. If I eat too much dairy, I'm not as sensitive to insulin, so I limit it. I don't eat it every day, and I usually only eat it for special occasions. Number 2, walk more than 5 miles a day. This is ancestrally the exercise that we did, and your body likes it. Your body really likes, your metabolism really likes walking, even better than jogging. It's a great exercise, and more than 5 miles a day. Set yourself a goal like 15,000, or people like Kelly Hogan has been, you know, I've been watching her numbers because I always watch her stories. She's been getting 30,000 steps a day. I'm not sure she knows how many miles that is, but I think it's about at least 10. 3, increase muscle mass by weight training or by body weight exercises. If you have more muscles, they use more glucose, or you use, you know, you just become more insulin sensitive. I don't weight train because mostly my hands, and just the fact that I don't like it anymore, and I don't belong to a gym, and I'm not going to buy a gym membership. I have a few hand weights, but it makes my hands worse, so I don't do it. But I do body weight exercises, and I do push-ups and V-ups and squats and other things like that. And for the new year, I'm going to go back to my 100 push-ups a day because I had very good results. And I believe in push-ups because they strengthen your upper body and they strengthen your abdomen because you're doing a constant plank. And I think if you want to pick one exercise, squats is it. But you might want to add, I said that wrong. If you want to add one exercise, push-ups are the exercise to add. And if you get 100 a day, that's just 25 before every meal and before bedtime. And that's how I used to do it. And ladies, you can do knee push-ups and have just as good results. I still do knee push-ups, even though I've been doing push-ups for years and years and years. I feel like I can get better. I can get closer to the ground if I'm doing a knee push-up, and I'm all for that. Okay. Number 4, try the lion diet. This is the list for increasing your insulin sensitivity, and you might find that the lion diet, which is eating only ruminant animals and salt. A ruminant animal is an animal that eats grass. So we're talking beef, lamb, goat, animals like that, venison. They are less inflammatory at all. Number 5, balance your circadian rhythms. See the sunrise and the sunset every day. I usually try to make sure that I'm walking during sunrise and during sunset. And use blue blocking glasses after dark. I don't do this just because I have not made the expense to buy blue blockers, but I believe in them. And I'm hoping one day I will buy them and use them. But I am guilty of watching TV at night and looking at my phone a lot during the day. So this is, it's always good to have a goal, and this is something I want to do, and I plan to. Number 6, get good sleep. However you can do that, get good sleep. My sleep has increased, my quality of sleep has increased quite a bit, and I'm really happy about that. It was just little changes like the sunrise and sunset thing, and just, I'm not exactly sure how I did it, but recently I've been having better sleep. I could do a whole new video on that next time, but right now I'm just saying work at it. There's a lot of resources. You could look it up on YouTube. There's a lot of things you can do. Turn your TV off early. I don't usually look at my phone after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't do social media in the evening. And that's one rule I've made for myself, but I break my rules too sometimes. Okay. Number 7, create community and happiness. Now, this seems like a list. It's so interesting because it seems like a list for just like the blue zones. That you hear about the blue zones and people living long and how to live a long life. But it's the same thing. Reducing your insulin sensitivity is the same as longevity and learning longevity. So, how do you create community? I joined a book club, so I've got, some ladies that I read books with every month and discuss. So I've got one meeting a month. Get involved in your community. I moved here actually about 1.5 years ago, and I have not done that very well, but I have a good substitute because I have community on social media, and it is kind of my community. I joined the Steak and Butter Gang, and it's my community. There's several meetings a week. No, we don't get to shake hands or hug, but we share our experiences, and it's really powerful. Happiness. Wait, I've been reading books about happiness. I just finished reading this book called The Happiness Advantage. It was pretty interesting. And if you just write in a gratitude journal every day about the things couple of things that you're grateful for every day, or if you're having trouble falling to sleep, go through a gratitude list of the things that you are grateful for. See yourself as your ideal self. Imagine yourself and the things that you want in your life. Imagine what that life would be like, and you create happiness. It's really amazing. Create beauty around yourself. Hang up pictures on your wall. Talk to your friends on the telephone. Paint or draw. Things like that will create happiness in your life, and that will actually help you be more insulin sensitive, really. Read inspiring information, inspiring books, inspiring quotes. Limit your negative input from images or TV, exposure to negative people, or exposure to the news. I don't watch the news, and I haven't watched the news for many, many years. I won't say I'm very informed. Sometimes I don't know what's going on in the world. I usually see it, if it's really important, on Facebook or on Instagram. But if I were to look at the news, I would be upset, and I know my blood sugars wouldn't be as good. When my sister died several years ago, and I started looking at old pictures of us, every time I got my box of old pictures out to look at, my blood sugars would go up into the 200. Grief, and the same thing happened 2 years ago when my husband died. Grief really causes you to have worse blood sugars, have higher blood sugars. And I'm not saying don't grieve when someone in your life leaves by dying, or leaves, or moves, or isn't your friend anymore. That will cause you grief. Experience your grief, but don't wallow in it. Experience your negative emotions, but don't wallow in them. It will help your blood sugars dramatically. Okay, I'm pretty done with mostly what I'm going to say. I wanted to recommend a carnivore blog called, it's on the website Carnivore Snacks, and Snacks is, it's a company. Carnivore Snacks is like a dried meat company, and they make chips that are made from just meat and salt. And Carnivore Snacks, the snacks is SNAX. They have a really good blog all about the carnivore diet. And I found a blog on there called Carnivore Diet for Diabetes, Type 1 versus Type 2, and Tips for Getting Started. And it's a really good thing to read when you're starting the carnivore diet. There's lots of good information on it. I highly recommend it. And take an active role in your diabetes management. Make a personal commitment to yourself to find out everything you possibly can about managing diabetes with your diet and your attitude and your lifestyle, and keep an active role in your diabetes management. Now, right now, I'd like to, that was funny. I'd like to announce that I will, starting in January, have group coaching for type 2 and type 1 diabetics once a week in a Zoom class. It's going to be $25 per month. If you get in touch with me on Instagram or Facebook Messenger, you can direct message me on Instagram My Instagram is Amy Fields Perrin, AIMEEFIELDSPERRIN, Instagram. And same as Facebook. And you can direct message me if you want to join the group. We'll decide what day it's going to be. It'll be an hour each month. And that's going to be $25 per month. I mean, each week. So one day each week, like say, Monday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or something like that, every Monday of the month. So that's going to start in January, and you pay me through PayPal or Venmo, and that's going to be a group class for type 1 and type 2 diabetics. And we'll be on Zoom, so we'll be able to see each other and create community for each other. I'll also be starting individual coaching, which I've done, but I haven't had a lot of clients. So I wanted to make an announcement here that I'll be doing individual coaching, where the first hour session is free, and then you get 5 more sessions, and it's $240 for 6 weeks total. And we could do that once a month or once a week, however you want to do it. And while you are enrolled in the 6 week individual coaching, you will be able to text me questions and I will answer you. So that's a really good incentive for joining that one. And that's going to be paid on PayPal or Venmo, whichever one you want. And it will be all on Zoom with my channel. So let me know either in comments after this video, or on Instagram direct message, or Facebook Messenger. And if you like this video and it was helpful to you, please like it, and then also subscribe to my channel, so then I will be able to start interviewing people and be able to get the message out to more people about how great the carnivore diet is for any condition at all. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Let me know if this was helpful. Bye-bye.